Hello, we're live. Hello, welcome back to another video. Thank you for clicking on this video and joining me today. Today, we're going to be talking about defense, which is something that I've not talked about before because, well, I've never had any defense to talk about. However, I have been crafting my balls off, I might say, over the last event that we just had, the Warhol crafting event, and I've put together some pieces that I want to show you, and alongside this I want to just talk about what it means to build defense, and that's what we're going to be doing today. We're going to look at a defensive museum. We're going to be looking at what that means and what you want to look at in terms of equipment, armors, weapons, and potential legendary artifacts. We're going to then have a little look at council and see what councillors would be good to be a defender and what sort of things you want to aim for. And we'll just finish off the video by looking at which wonders are best for defenders. So let's have a look and let's get into it. And just to start off this video, let's go into my defensive museum that I'm starting to build. And essentially what sparked this off is at the beginning of the event, I was lucky enough to pull out this bad boy from a chest, and I think I posted this on my YouTube community post thing, and someone said, "Oh, ha ha ha, how many attempts did that take you to get that?" No word of a lie, right? I brought 10 chests, and on the first chest this little bugger pops out. I genuinely fell off my chair, so very happy to get this. Got it out of the first chest that I got. I will add that that is very, very lucky, and I have opened a lot of other chests, not for this legendary but for other legendaries in the past, and got absolutely diddly shit. So I don't want to encourage chest buying because I think it's ridiculous, but I had a couple of crowns left over. Chests popped up for this, so I thought, you know what, I'm gonna take a little chance on the chest, and hey, that time I got lucky, and that's now sparked my enthusiasm, delight, desire, I might even say, to now build a defensive museum, which is exactly what I have been doing. So let's get into what a defensive museum needs, and we're going to start with the bread and butter, which is your equipments. Equipments are your bread and butter for a defensive museum, and when we're crafting and we're looking for equipments, what we're looking for are the holy trinity of stats that you want to find that will make up your defensive museum. And actually, if I go back to this guy here, it's got all three for me to show you. The three most important stats that you want are all defensive tower hit points, which is the top line of this one here, all defensive towers damage, which is the bottom line, and defender spawn time. Other ones that are nice for equipments are things like defender hit points and defender damage, but ultimately you want to really maximize your all defensive towers damage, your all defensive towers hit points. And then when it comes to defender spawn time, yes, it's really important, but actually, because you can get quite an amount of defender spawn time from council, which I might as well do a little sidebar on now. This is the one I'm going to be running. Where is it? There we go. Active benefits. I can get 42% defender spawn time from council. That means that when you're looking for artifacts, if your defender spawn time isn't as high as you would like, from those you can make up for it in your council. And because munitions and technology that you get in the library that have recently come out has sort of basically boosted defense to be quite strong, munitions especially, that means that essentially reaching the cap on defender spawn time is a lot easier to do than it would previously have been. So I've gone off on a real tangent here, but we might as well stick with it. Finishing off on the defender spawn time, if you look at a defender spawning building, essentially what you've got is your first wave and then additional waves. The first wave on this building here is 3 seconds, and additional waves is 10 seconds. That's because this is my multiplayer base and the timings are pretty high because I've got no defender spawn time in my museum. The caps on all buildings is 2 seconds for the first wave and 10 seconds for the additional waves. You cannot make it any lower. So what I'm trying to say is, if you've got defender spawn time of minus 120%, let's say, in your museum, let me have a look at mine now. It's going to be absolutely nothing because I haven't actually upgraded any of these yet. But if we go to my defender spawn time, it's currently minus 30%. If I was to have in my museum defender spawn time of minus 120,000, let's say 120,000, that would be lovely, but still make absolutely no difference. If I had defender spawn time of minus 120, and then in my council another minus 40, I've got, let's say, a total of minus 160 defender spawn time. That's great. However, at about minus 100% defender spawn time, I'm already going to be capped out at that 2 seconds for the first wave and 10 seconds for the additional waves. So what I'm trying to say is, in terms of defender spawn time, you don't need really more than a total of minus 100% defender spawn time, because you cannot lower the spawn time of your defensive buildings any more than 2 seconds and 10 seconds. Anyway, I just wanted to clarify that before I go in depth into the rest of what we're looking for in a defensive museum here. So let's regain the focus of this video, which is the holy trinity of the stats for a defensive museum. As I've said, all defensive towers hit points, all defensive towers damage, and defender spawn time. But defender spawn time, we don't need that to be over a total of maybe minus 100%, which means, the reason I went off that whole tangent is that when you are crafting equipments, you don't have to have a huge deal of defender spawn time on your equipments. So for example, this one here hasn't got a single defender spawn time line on it. It's just got all defensive towers damage and all defensive towers hit points and a readout damage, which is okay but not great. So this, in my opinion, is quite a nice 4-liner equipment. Let's go to my next one. On here, I got 2 defender spawn times, that's fine. And then the rest of them, though, I've got all defensive towers hit points and all defensive tower hit points, which is fine, that's great. Let's go to my next one. We've got all defensive towers hit points, defender spawn time, all defensive towers hit points, all defensive towers damage. So the point I'm trying to make, I'll cut it off here, I promise, no more chat about defender spawn time, is that you want to try and prioritize all defensive towers hit points and all defensive towers damage when you're looking for equipment. Yes, you're going to want a couple of lines of defender spawn times, but getting that damage and hit points as high as possible is better, because you, as I said earlier on, you can make up for the defenders you can make up for the defender spawn time in your council, and we're aiming for about that magic number of 100. So equipment, like I said, that's enough on that. You want to get defender spawn time, all defensive towers damage, and all defensive towers hit points. Okay. Final note on those is to know like how strong your museum is. There's something that is known within the DomiNations community as your stat score. What is a stat score? That is essentially your all defensive towers damage percentage, your defender spawn time percentage, and your all defensive towers hit points percentage added together. And that will give you a number which is called your stat score. So for example, if I take these ones now, I've got 33% for my damage, I've got 30% for my defender spawn time. Add those together, that's currently a score of 63. If I now add my hit points, which is 51, let's do some quick math here. 51 add 63, it's been a very long day. 60, 70, 80, 90, 100, 110, 101, 104. That would give me a score of 104, okay? Adding those three together. Now, of course, that's quite low, and the reason for that is because at the moment, I haven't upgraded any of the stat lines on these. I have calculated what my stat score will be when I finished upgrading these, because I couldn't wait to do it and I just needed to know. You know, it's one of those things that I was sort of going to invest in, so I wanted to know what I was going to get out, and my all defensive towers damage will total 126. My all defensive towers HP will total a whopping 160. And my defender spawn time will be 84. So I can then, like I said, make up for a bit more of that in the council building. But that means that my total stat score for my defensive museum when it's complete will be 370, which is something I'm quite happy with, because you want ideally to be able to like hold off against like a fairly decent attacker at least 300. You want a total score of about 300. 350 plus is like good, you know that like above average, so I will be above average. And then anything over 400, fantastic. Like that is, you're looking at top tier. For some of you that might be interested, some of the very top alliances, their stat scores are like over 450, 460, some even more. How they got those, I'm not going to go throwing any accusations out there. I'm sure it was, mostly legit, and kudos to them for doing that. But yeah, top alliances, their stat scores for some of their defenders are like 450 plus. However, as I said, if you're making a defensive museum, aim for 300 or more, 350 or more, fantastic. That's good, above average. 400 or more, amazing. So that's equipment, that's stat scores, and that's made up of your defensive towers damage, defensive towers hit points, and your defender spawn time. So let's have a look now at what you want to do with your weapons and your armors, because those are as important as your equipments, but not as important. That doesn't make any sense. Anyway, let's look at weapons. On your weapons, you are going to have lines that are going to decrease the invading troops' hit points. And because at the moment, fighters and mortars are like the top troops that attackers use, you want to ideally aim for any lines that decrease invading mortar troop hit points or invading fighter hit points. And this weapon here, I was lucky enough to get 3 of those lines, so it's a keeper. And on my other weapon here, I was very lucky to get 2 lines for invading mortar troop hit points that, when I max them out, will give me minus 30% for this one weapon. So if I add those to my other weapon, I'm going to have minus 57% invading mortar trooper hit points and minus 15% invading fighter hit points. When I made this museum, I was making it on, well, not on a budget, but this is like the first defensive museum I've ever crafted, so I didn't go like mad with my crafting. I just got essentially what I would class as some like half decent equipments here. Sorry, not equipments, weapons, because hey, they've got invading mortar troop hit points and I can get a total of minus 57, so that's great. Let's have a look at armors. Armors decrease invading troop damage, and just like I said before, the top troops at the moment that are being used are mortars and fighters, so trying to decrease their damage is what you want to look for. Again, I was fortunate enough to find one here that will give me a total of minus 27%, coupled with my other one here, which will give me another minus 30% mortar troop damage. Again, my museum is going to have a very tasty minus 57% invading mortar troop damage. So that's armors and weapons. So thinking about our tick list, we've talked about weapons. We want weapons that are going to give us minus percentage for invading troops that are popular, i.e. at the moment mortar troops and fighters. Same with the armors, except for this time you're looking at minusing invading troop damage. We've talked about equipments. Lastly, let's just talk about which legendaries are ideal for a defensive museum. Now, as I said at the very beginning of this video, I was lucky enough to get Ramesses II Abu Simbel, and this is like pretty much a must-have for a defensive museum, just because it has got 3 of the like Holy Trinity lines that you want: all defensive towers damage, minus defender spawn time, and all defensive towers hit points. So that is like a top tier defensive legendary artifact. Other ones that are good to have then, I'm building this on a budget because I don't, I want to build it quickly. I want to get it up and running. So another good one that's only 100 tokens is White Death's War Kit, and that's good because when you've leveled it up, you're going to get an extra minus an extra plus 13% all defensive towers hit points and 13% all defensive towers damage, which are going to just help add to your total stat score. I have Julius Caesar because really out of my other legendaries, this is the only one that's going to really benefit me as a defender, and that's because it has invading barracks troops damage minus percentage. So that means that any troops invading me, let's say mortars for example, that are coming from the barracks, they're going to have an extra minus 19% on their damage. So couple that with my weapons, which have minus 57%, 57 add 19, that will give me minus, it's been a really long day, but I'm talking like a 12-13 hour day today. 57 add 20 is 77. Take away 1, that's going to give me minus 76% damage for any mortars that are attacking me, which is fantastic. That's a big percentage to take off any invading troops. So Julius Caesar, that's a good one to have if it's one that you've already got. If you're an attacker, you can use that for defense as well. But if we have a look in here, so I can show you the actual other legendaries that are quite good. I did spot a guy that had them. Oh, I didn't mean to press that. I meant to press spy. Let's go back. We want to spy the museum. So other legendaries that are really good to have are, here we go, Maori, I think I'm saying that right, Maori War Club. And why do you want this? Well, because again, it's got everything a defender could dream of. It's got all defensive towers hit points and damage in one line, which is going to add to your stat score. It's got defender spawn time, it's got defender movement speed, it's got invading recon scan duration, and it's also got general's attack speed, which is great but not amazing for a defender. But still, you've got a good 4 lines there that are going to be fantastic for you as a defender. So that again is like a top tier. So really, in terms of what you want to build, what you want to try and accumulate for a really top tier museum, is Maori War Club, Abu Simmel, and then some other ones that are like top tier. I mean, Gemini Gloves is fantastic. That gives you all defensive towers damage and all defensive towers hit points as well. But there is a really another nice one, and where did I see that? And that is not on there, bugger. Here we go. The Asdic type 113X, because that again gives you defender spawn time, which is really important, but this reduces invading airstrip troop damage and invading barrack troop damage, as well as invading factory troop damage actually. So this is a really good one for defense as well. So that would be a top one to try and aim for if you want to build a top tier defensive museum. So that is museum wrapped up, I believe. Let's quickly talk about council, because I said I would. And in council, again, really, you've got to work with what you've got. And for me, I don't have very many like epic or higher legendary councillors. I've only got blue ones. Well, I've got a mixture. Let me show you what I've got. So, like I said, you've got to work with what you've got. So pick ones that are going to give you the stats that you want as a defender. So here I've got at the top, I've managed to get minus 42% defender spawn time. I've increased my defensive towers damage because that's what I could basically muddle together what I have. One thing to try and make sure you do achieve with your council is the committees. One of the most important committees is Boudica, because that gives you defender spawn speed near wonders, which is like amazing, because basically any spawner buildings you put near wonders, they're going to get faster defender spawn time. But it also has defender attack speed, so Boudica's Uprising, really good for defender. Another good one that used to be like a must-have, but I don't think is used as much as it used to be. Don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, but Churchill, because if you have the Churchill committee, that gives you sniper towers that deal explosive damage, but it also decreases invading airstrip as I said, been a long day, but it also decreases invading airstrip troop hit points. So in terms of committees, I would say, in my opinion, Boudica is like a top one to have. You definitely want that for that defender spawn time and defender attack speed. And Churchill's a nice one to get as well, if you can get that also. So that's council. Let's wrap this video up just by rating which wonders are best for defense. Let's start with the... Where's it gone? Here we go. The Forbidden City. Forbidden City is like a must-have for defenders. I am going to swap to that soon, and the reason for that is because Forbidden City acts as a second town centre, meaning that if attackers want to snipe your TC, well, to get that quick victory, they're also going to have to snipe your Forbidden City, which is not as easy as it sounds. So, Forbidden City, definitely want that. Let's go across to here. Versailles, definitely want to have as a defender, because that can act as a really nice slowing down thing. Essentially, when it is destroyed, it slows down troops, so you can place that strategically to slow down defenders. Space Needle, what can I replace that with? Pentagon. So yeah, Space Needle is great for university, but if you want to really go all out defender, Pentagon's great, because that means you can assign an extra general for defense. The last one I want to show you is, well, sorry, yeah, Hermitage goes without saying over here. Oh, god damn it, I hate doing these every day. Bloody animation. Yeah, you need the Hermitage Museum. That's if you're information age or higher, because that allows you to equip that extra equipment in the museum, or extra legendary if you're feeling fruity. In fact, I think it just allows you to equip any extra piece of artifact in your museum. So yes, need Hermitage to get those scores and get those numbers as high as you can. But the last one, I'm trying to find my other wonder that I want to sort of try and replace with, because the other one you want, space shuttle hiding in the corner, the other one you want to get is Unisphere, because Unisphere deploys a absolutely massive defensive coalition army when it is destroyed, which is great because as a defender you want defenders to fight for you. So that's the last one that you want as a defender. I think that's all I wanted to say. I feel like I have talked an awful lot. If you've made it to the end of the video, hats off to you, and well done for doing that, because I feel like I've gone around in a lot of circles with my talking today, but I hope I've covered everything I need to. In the description, I am going to put a link to a written / typed up version of what I've just waffled on about. So if you want to have a look at that for more details, please do. Please, again, if you've enjoyed this video, give it a little like, get the finger and poke the like button. That would be fantastic. And subscribe if you want to see more content. Check out my previous videos, there's lots on there. I think that's all I want to say. Yeah, I will be, at some point, attempting to level up all of my stats on these. So stay tuned, because when I finish that, I'm going to sort of just, you know, do another little video showing what it is looking like when it is finished, and hopefully showing you some footage of people attacking me and failing miserably. So, thank you for watching. As always, peace out. See you in the next one.